Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Coaching in Session. My name is Michael Reardon, and I'll be your life coach this evening. So today is Blog Post Monday. So whatever blog that is scheduled to be posted, it will be the topic of discussion for today. And today we have a treat. Today is going to be a topic everyone wants to have, right? Everyone wants to be this. But not everyone's willing to put in the work. Not everyone's willing to say, you know what, I'm going to sacrifice something in order to get this. They just want it, and if they don't get it, they're going to be unhappy about it. So it's important to understand that this is going to be something you have to work for. It's not something that's given to you. It's not something entitled to you. It's not something owed to you. So that means it's something you have to work for. And the concept of work is a sketchy story nowadays because people don't want to work. They want to do the least amount of effort for a huge type of reward. But it doesn't work out that way. You have to put in the work in order to reap the reward, to reap the benefits. So simply understanding that part, because happiness is what we're going to be talking about today. Are you happy? And if not, why? It's important to understand that question because we go through life without even knowing how we're feeling. We see the world on the outside of us and we say, this is going to be who I am. You're influenced by what's around you, what you see. And I understand if you're young and that's how you operate, because that's how you learn. Think of the early ages of childhood. Children are going to be watching their parents, watching friends, environment, and they're going to learn how to act. They're going to learn how to be proper human beings or proper citizens of a society. We don't do this, we don't do that, you do this when this happens, etc., etc. Do you think we put the kids in English class and say, okay, you need to learn English now? No. They learn from their environment. And they pick up how to speak. They learn how to speak from their environment. So if kids learn this way, how do we learn? Well, we're taught that we need to go to school, get an education, etc. You can learn from various mentors, or you can learn from books. Another great source of knowledge. However, we forget that we're continually learning from our environment. That is already something we're used to. We learn how it is to be in our environment. You adapt to your environment. You're not going to adapt to the wrong environment. You're going to adapt to your current environment. You're not going to say, well, if you're living in Florida and then let's say you live in Connecticut, right? Two different places, because Florida is going to be hot and humid and Connecticut has the potential to be cold and snowy. So if you're spending all your time thinking, working toward adapting to a Florida type environment, and then you're living in Connecticut and you fail to adapt there, what happens? You're going to be pretty cold. Adapt to survive, move to live. And when it comes to people adapting, they do so very well, almost too well. But they're not adapting to the correct rhetoric. They're not adapting to the correct protocol of how a person should and ought to be operating. Because we're blinded by what society and the world has told us over the years. And as long as we're going to hold the world's ideals in our head, can we be happy? The dream, the American dream, to buy a house, have a white picket fence, maybe a dog, 2 kids. You work a 9 to 5 until you're 65, and then you get the ability to retire and then be happy. Well, what about everything before 65? Oh, wait. Sorry, forgot to tell you. Oh, you get 2 weeks off every year until age 65, and then you get the rest of your life off. Okay. I don't know who thought that was a good deal. Because now we have millennials or the younger generation saying we're not going to work to 65, and let alone the political aspect of social security not being there for them. They're simply saying, why do I want to work to 65? That's silly. I would rather work until I'm 40, or I'd rather work till I'm 50 and then be able to retire. Well, if you have the idea of retiring at a certain age in your mind, it's a good goal. It's a goal you should have and hold on to, because it could help you get where you want to be. Now, let's talk about your goal, though. If you say you want to retire at 55, that means you're going to give yourself until 55 until retire. People like to procrastinate. And I'm not saying that you're going to be one of those people who like to procrastinate, but if you are, it's going to take you however many years you have left until you reach 55 years old. But you have to be realistic too. You're not going to say, I'm going to retire tomorrow with no plan, with no job security or financial backing. You're not going to be able to do that. So what happens? Do we give ourselves a year and we say, okay, this is when we're going to retire, and then we retire? Or do we say, okay, I'm just going to go through life, and whatever life gives me, that's what I'm going to take, and we'll see where I am at 55. 2 totally different plans. One is haphazard. The other one is more definitive, maybe with a plan enacted to it. So all of that be told, where's the happiness? Does the happiness happen in the beginning, middle, or end of your plan? Did you schedule that? Did you say, well, I'm going to be miserable at this job, but I get a lot of money for it? Or I'm going to love my job, but I don't make enough money to pay the bills. And it's a dilemma for millions of people. They get into careers that don't pay enough for their lifestyle for them to retire at a certain age. They just work into the system. And it's nothing wrong with working into the system. But if you're listening to this podcast, if you're listening to me and following my work, then you understand that following the system is going to leave you bone dry. It's going to leave you licking the bones after everyone has had their fill. And we're not going to accept that. we're going to go against the status quo and we're going to say, this is what I want for my life, and then we go after it. Simply bowing down to the world's orders or ideals or just current culture is not what we are going to do. You're going to create your own ideals, your own world, your own culture. And you're going to abide by your plan. Because if you fail to abide by your plan, can you say that you're happy? Because your plan at least should lead to some type of happiness. And it's not the false sense of happiness that we're looking for. Not the false sense of happiness when we buy a car and we're like, oh, I got a new car. I'm so happy. Got a new pair of shoes or a new dress, outfit, whatever. I got a puppy. I'm so happy. The dog makes me so happy. I got a promotion at my job. I'm so happy. How long does that happiness last? Does it last a day? Maybe 3 days? Maybe a week? And it's very similar to the honeymoon phase. It's short-lived. As humans, we are naturally negative, and we'll actually hold a negative thought more than we will a happy thought. Think of a time when something happened that wasn't necessarily good for you. Maybe you got in a car crash, maybe someone passed away that you love. Maybe you lost a job, don't have money to pay rent, bills, you're evicted, living on the streets, eating out of trash cans, whatever that negative type of thought you want to have. Now, how long do you live with that thought? Because if you know anything about me or your emotions, then you would already know that your emotions only last 90 seconds. So anything past 90 seconds is your doing. So if you're simply going to say, all right, I'm upset that Stacy went to the store without me, and I'm going to be upset all day long. And maybe tomorrow I'm going to be upset and Stacy gives me a text and I don't want to talk to her. How much time are you wasting? How many opportunities could you have been happy, but you decided to be miserable? And that's where we are in life. People are choosing misery over happiness. And do not say that you're looking for happiness and you're not putting in the work. Because the whole first spiel of what I said was you're not putting in the work. You have to put in the work. Because if you're not putting in the work, what are you doing? So let's get into it. Let's figure out what is really going on and see how we can figure this out. So head over to my website, reverendconcepts.com. Head over to the resource tab, which is right on top, number 2. And once you click it, you will see all the recent blogs. And the most recent blog is dated for today, September 13th, 2021. The Habit of Happiness. And a wonderful read, as many of my blogs are. Definitely a doozy. But what is the habit of happiness? We know, or we may be familiar with, what it is to be happy. We may like to be happy or to want a life filled with happiness. But how do we implement that into our life? And that's the $1 million question, right? We want to be happy, but we don't know how necessarily. because we can buy designer pocketbooks, clothes, a big house, but it doesn't make us happy. Maybe for a short time, yeah, because we have an endorphin rush, a feel good feeling. But we're talking about long-term happiness, lasting happiness. Happiness where you can always go to and say, yes, this is good. Not a happiness where it's contingent on a certain factor. And that's where society is. We're contingent on being happy. I'll be happy when. I'll be happy if. I'll be happy at a later date, but not today. And just following that sequence, we're giving our power away for happiness. And we give our power away frequently, more so than just happiness. We don't simply say, okay, well, I'm going to be happy tomorrow and carry on for a day. Oh, I'm going to be a millionaire next month and then carry on for a day. It doesn't work that way. It requires hard work. It requires discipline, and it requires consistency. If you want to be a millionaire, yes, you can be a millionaire, but how much work do you need to do? And it's not necessarily how much work someone else needs to do. It is how much work you need to do. Because only you will know how much or how bad you really want it. Because if you don't want it bad enough, then it's going to take you a lot longer to get it. But if you're hungry, if you're driven, if you're motivated enough to get it, then maybe soon in your future, it's possible. But how many people wait for Superman to come save them? Speaking of Superman, probably can't see it, but, logo. Merch. Head over to the store. See what they got. Shirts, mugs, name it, we got it. Revenue Concepts merch. It's going to be similar to your armor. And we're going to go on a little on a little spat here. I learned about armor, not in the medieval times, talking about armor, but a type of armor you put on where you feel like you can take over the world. And it happens at a young age when a kid is wearing a superhero outfit or a costume where they feel like they're a superhero. They feel like they're invincible. And as adults, that's when we doll up, clean up real nice. Men wear suits, ties, shirt, button-up shirts. Women may wear dresses, high heels. It could be business, casual. Doesn't matter. But you feel confident in what you're wearing. You feel like you're sexy. You feel like you're handsome. You feel like you're the bomb. And when that happens, happiness seeps in a little bit because then that confidence exudes from you. And you say, I feel good today. I feel like I can conquer anything. And people realize that. They see it. It's similar to an aura around you. And they're going to say, whoa, look at this person. I want to be like them. I want to be beautiful like them. I want to be handsome like them. I want to be dashing and debonair. Just like them. And the truth is, you have that power. You have that ability. But are you looking at something in your life and you're saying, I want that? Or are you looking at something in your life and saying, I'm going to get that? And the habit of happiness is simply talking about, I see something in my life and I'm going to get it. The habit of happiness is talking about how can I be happy on a more consistent basis rather than just when something good happens in my life. So simply understanding that aspect of happiness. Why are we not doing more in order to be more happy on a frequent basis? And the reason is because of our habits in general. Now, the habit of happiness can be followed just from reading this blog and saying, okay, this is what I need to do. And it's going to bring me a little bit closer to happiness, but it requires work, trial and error a little bit too, because the thing about habits is those bad ones are going to come back too. You can definitely implement good habits, but the bad ones will show their face again. And I was speaking about it earlier, how we focus on negative habits more so than we do positive habits. And that's just the brain naturally. But we can rewire that type of thinking. Do you see the glass as half full or half empty? That's your thinking, right? It's no right or wrong. It's just how you are thinking. And if you're thinking where life is not abundant or life has a limited amount of success or money or wealth, you can switch that way of thinking. And the same thing is with your happiness. Happiness can be yours. And even if you're going through a hard time right now, understand that that challenging moment in your life is not necessarily a bad moment, because your experience is actually going to be able to help elevate your happiness in the future. Because if everything was given to you, how would you know what will make you happier? And by now, you probably have enough experiences to say, I know what's going to make me not happy. And you might know things that will give you temporary happiness, yes. But we're looking at how can we be more happy? And talking about armor again. You put on that clothing to feel more confident. And if you can put that idea on your happiness, where you put on a smile to bring in more happiness, it's a similar effect. And I'm not saying that if you're crying because someone passed away and you smile and after you smile to try to be positive, that doesn't necessarily work in that regards, right? Now, if you smile and you're trying to be happy, then you just started a goal. This is where I want to be. And you go after it. But you have to have the bad with the good, the yin and the yang. And one example I use frequently is, imagine if there was someone who had a silver spoon in their mouth growing up, right? They had everything given to them. They didn't have to work. They didn't have to worry about school. Everything was a breeze. They always had food to eat, always had clothes to wear, and on top of it, they always had the latest and greatest of everything. Money was not an issue for them. But life is with its problems. So one day, mom or dad says that they can't go to the basketball game because they got a bad grade on their test. And they're huffing and puffing, and they say they hate the mother and they hate their life and they wish they were born in a different family because they don't understand. Their environment was good, which is good. But that reason, is it valid for them? And the answer is yes. Because They had a different type of upbringing. They had a different type of environment. And so do you. So did I. I grew up in the ghetto. Gunshots, drugs, gang violence, car accidents, name it. I saw it. I lived it. And I'm not looking for sympathy. I'm not saying I'm a victim to anything, because I saw it. But then I also said, do I want this for myself? Is this going to give me the life that I want, this environment? And the answer was no, of course, right? But I'm not going to look at the rich kid who's upset that he can't go to a sports game because he got an F on the test. I failed more tests than that young man or woman probably would ever fail in their whole entire life. I wasn't dumb. I was just unmotivated. There was nothing good around me. All I saw was hate, violence, and decay. But did I allow that to conform who I became? No. I said who I wanted to be. I made rules, created goals, and developed a plan. And though the plan wasn't perfect, it was a plan. It was something. And many reiterations of it later, a new plan. Reiterations of it later, a new plan. Almost so much where I'm going in circles because I'm thinking I know where I want to be. But I just knew where I didn't want to be. So the habit of happiness, for me, it was trying to figure out where I truly wanted to be. And the things that I thought would make me happy were just on the surface. The clothes I wear, the car I drove, the house I lived in. That was on the surface. Money in my wallet, money in my bank account, on the surface. All of that can be taken away and I would still be happy. Because that's not where my happiness resides. Where do you find your joy? It's important to understand you. It's important to understand what you want so you can go after it. And to not allow your happiness to be contingent on some factor, whether it be a person, a time, or yourself. That's what I find is happening right now. The habit of happiness is the habit of procrastination. People are procrastinating and they're wishing happiness to come to them. Maybe they'll win the lotto. Maybe they'll get a good inheritance from their parents or grandparents. Maybe they'll get a promotion that was long overdue, etc. And when they get it, how long do they hold on to that happiness? It's always short-lived. I can tell you that much, because they haven't done the work to find out what truly makes them happy. What makes you so content where if nothing changed, you will be A-okay? If you were living the same life in 10 years, 20 years, and 30 years, would you be happy? Would you be satisfied? And for me, it's a mixed, because satisfaction is one thing, happiness is another. Because I can make a lot of money on the surface happiness. I can have a nice house, a nice car, on the surface happiness. But let's get deep. What matters on the inside? What matters deep down? And that's going to be different for everyone. It might be family. It might be friends. Might be a loved one. Right? Whatever that happiness is for you, identify it. And then be courageous enough to say, I'm going to work in order for this happiness to continue. I'm going to fight for this happiness to continue. Because we're so quick to throw away something that's broken. And if something that made you happy is now making you sad or depressed, you're saying, I'm going to get rid of it. And that's why I tell people in relationships, do not put your happiness on another individual. That person may embellish your happiness, but they're not there to make you happy. That is not their job. They didn't sign up to say, I'm going to make you happy. It's going to be ups and downs in relationships. The good and the bad, the yin and the yang, you take it for what it is. And having those bads, those low points makes you appreciate the high points. Because if you have all these high points in your relationship, the moment something inconsequential happens, both parties are dissatisfied. So it takes some type of hurt, some type of challenge, obstacle, for people to realize, oh, wait, this is what I could have had. And it's important to live that. And it's important to recognize it. But it's also important to not repeat it. You wouldn't want to be having the same argument with your partner over and over again. You're not a broken record. Tell them what is making you unhappy or angsty, whatever you want, whatever emotion you're feeling, and simply say, this is what I propose. Is this possible? Yes or no? And if you're being reasonable, the other person is not being childish, then both parties can agree. Have your priorities in line. Because if you don't have your priorities in line, what are you doing? What are you prioritizing in your days? Are you simply going through the flow, the motion of what the day throws at you? Or do you say, you know what? I'm going to be the boss of my day today. I'm going to be the person who creates everything that happens. I'm going to make all the choices, and I'm going to own all the choices that I make. Because simply saying that you're going to be able to be happy when you're 65, or be happy when you get in a relationship, or be happy when you win the lotto, is not a good enough plan. And it won't work. Because we know happiness is going to be fleeting, especially in a negative world and a negative mind. So start to find happiness on a more frequent basis. What makes you happy? Maybe it's going to the dog park with your dog. Maybe it's going on a hike. So you decide to go on a hike every weekend. Maybe it's doing yoga, seeing your therapist, talking with a life coach, going out to dinner with your spouse or your partner, taking your kids to the amusement park or the toy store. What makes you happy? And then do it to an extent, but don't do it until it's broken. Because eventually, if you do something long enough, it becomes routine. And routines feel like a regular day. And if you get into the habit of having your happiness be routine, you're going to not feel it. It's going to be there. You're just not going to feel it. Think of a hot day and you have central air in your home. And it's 100 degrees outside and you're getting out of your car and you're like, "Ooh, it's so hot out." It's hot outside. And you walk into your house and it's cool. AC is set to 74, maybe lower, maybe 72. And you say, "Well, it feels so great in here. That feels good. That feels nice." That's happiness. Appreciating what you have. Finding the small things. That's joy. Making lunch for your kids and writing them a note. When they get to school and they open up their lunch and they have a ham and cheese sandwich with a bag of Cheetos and a 25-cent Juicy, or maybe a Capri Sun, maybe a bag of Gushers, fruit snacks, and a handwritten note on a napkin telling them how proud you are of them, how much you love them. What do you think is going to be the most enjoyable thing in that lunchbox? Do you think it's going to be the fruit snacks, the ham and cheese sandwich, the Doritos, the Capri Sun? Or is it going to be that handwritten note you took time to write? This could be that note. Especially if you don't do it frequently. Because if you do it enough and they become accustomed to that note, they'll read it and they'll put it to the side. That's why acts of romance in a relationship, if you do it on a frequent basis, it's more so of, this is your job now, do it, versus, how thoughtful of you. I can't believe you bought me flowers and chocolate. It has a higher effect, a stronger effect. And not simply buying them flowers and chocolate when you're in the doghouse, but because you wanted to. Maybe because it was on sale, but they don't need to know that. But because you wanted to. So your happiness is a habit. The things you do will create your happiness. So if you're finding that your happiness is not where it needs to be because your work, your daily obligations, maybe your friends or family, what are you going to do about it? And I'm not going to say start getting a machete and chopping everyone out of your life. I'm going to say understand what you want and if it's conducive to your plan. And I have a wonderful blog. It's called Anchors, Embers, and Toxic People, or something like that. So let me find that for you, because a great blog to read. So let's see. Oop, can't spell. Going to this blog. All right. So Toxic, Anchor, and Ember. A blog I highly, highly recommend anyone read. If you could read one blog, this is the blog. Probably forgive any grammar or punctuation problems. This was early on, I believe, when I was starting to write my blogs. So my writing is not as proficient as it is today. As you can see, April 12th, 2019. So I have now, 2 years of writing blog posts. So very different to how I write currently. But all the better, this blog is a must. So simply just understanding who in your life is not promoting your happiness, who's stalling your happiness, and then who's helping you ignite your happiness. And not ignite to burn and to have ashes, but to kindle so it can shine bright. It's important to understand that, because the number one reason people fail to be happy is they're unwilling to put in the work. They're unwilling to be consistent in what it takes to be happy. And they're very repetitive when it comes to things that made them happy. So buying a pizza and watching Netflix and a bottle of wine might make you happy on Friday. But how does it make you feel on Saturday? What happens on Monday? Where did the happiness of Friday go? Do you long for that happiness? Why couldn't you bring that happiness along with you on Monday? Is that something only delegated for Fridays? Yeah, that's what people do. They say, I'm going to be happy on Friday. I'm going to be miserable on Monday. I'm going to be happy when someone does what I say, how and does how I like it. Then I'll be happy. There's a big difference between happiness being contingent and happiness being a rule that you're going after, a rule that you follow. And for me, it's not necessarily so much where if I do something, it makes me happy. It's not so where if I'm doing a podcast or if I'm working with a client, it doesn't necessarily make me happy or any happier, because at any given point, I can feel happiness and I can smile. I can feel happiness and say, yes, I want to think about this more in my life. Because my mind is not thinking about the negative. My mind is not thinking about the problems. It's thinking about the solutions. And those solutions are my happiness. Because if you have a problem and I have a solution, that's the remedy. If you are poisoned and I have the antidote, I'm going to give you the antidote. I don't want you to be poisoned. I don't want you to be sick or ill. I want you to understand that things are going to be better. Things can be better. And when you take that antidote, understand there's going to be a rush of feelings and emotions going through you. You're going to say, thank goodness I'm going to make it. I'm going to live to, I'm 65, or I'm going to live until another day. But what do you do with that newfound understanding of your time? Do you simply say, I'm going to be more cognizant of what I'm doing with my life? And for how long? I find that when people have a life-altering trauma, their behaviors change. And sometimes their behaviors change too late. The damage has already been done. So it's important to understand that if you're going to do something that's going to make your life better, do not wait until something bad happens where you say, all right, I got knocked on my butt. Now I need to make things better. You don't have to wait for happiness. Happiness is right there for you to attain. So don't fight with yourself. Don't fight with the life you have. Accept it. Understand it. Learn from it, grow from it. Because your environment, your habits are going to be the happiness that you're truly seeking. and simply going after and doing proper disciplined habits that are conducive to a higher level of success is going to help elevate you and your life and those of the people you choose to have around you. And it's not your responsibility to carry the whole world on your back either. It's not your responsibility to say, I'm going to be happy only if this or that. Your responsibility should be, I'm going to be happy even if I don't get this or that. And if you get this or that, you might feel a sense of joy and a boost of endorphins and what you would just say a boost of happiness. Understand you always had that. That was always there. That was always there for you to feel. And success feels good. Losing, failure, that doesn't feel good. Second place, yeah, you did a great job, but you still lost. It doesn't feel good. And I'm not saying be afraid to fail. I'm saying be more afraid to not try and to not give what you have at 100%. And I was thinking earlier today, there's some coaches who say, I'm going to give 110%. I'm going to give 120%. I'm going to give 210%. It's only 100%. It's 100%. Okay? If anything extra is a bonus. Like if you ever got like a spelling test and you got 100 on your test, so you got the highest score for that test. Anything extra just goes to your next project, your next test. But that won't matter if you're still operating at 100%. You're already there at the maximum. And when people are saying operate at 100%, 120%, theoretically, they should be talking about 140%. Because it is a known fact where if you can give 100% or less, people would rather give less. The majority of people would rather give less than 100% than to give everything they had. And that is a little bit of laziness. That's a little bit of their environment. And it's a little bit of how our human brain is wired. Our brain wants to conserve energy in the case of fight or flight, if it needs to protect itself. It doesn't want to be exhausted when it needs to fight for its life. The brain wants to stay alive. The brain wants you to be alive. That's why when you get hungry, you get a sign saying, "Oop, I'm hungry and my belly's rumbling." If you get scared, you are running to safety. If you need a fight because there's an attacker trying to take your life, you're giving everything you have. And it's not by accident. That's the human body. That's the mind. So learning how to unlock that percent that the mind is keeping away from you, to unlock that percent that the mind is saving just in case. Well, there's no better time than right now than just in case, because if you're going to continue to live life with all that reserved energy dormant and latent, it's going to be a lot more challenging, and it's going to take you a lot longer to seek the things you want to seek in your life. And the same things with your happiness. So the blog, The Habit of Happiness, highly recommend you read it along with all those other blogs. There's no ads. It's a simple read. This content is there for you to learn and to grow. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, you can always email me at coachinginsession@gmail.com. If you would like to work with me as your life coach, you can always head over to revenconcepts.com. You can book a free discovery session, or you can go to the contact page and let's say you are looking for a life coach to hire. I will reach out to you and we'll see if we're a good fit. And I don't work with everyone who reaches out to me. I will definitely give advice and offer the best type of care I can, but not every personality is going to work with mine. I'm a results-oriented type person. The results I want are going to be the results I get. And I know I can get those results because I was a coach for many years now. Or I've been a coach for many years now. And the reason why people choose me, or the reason why people want to continue to work with me, is because of the results that I want for them. I always ask what you want, and then we go after what you want and more. Don't be the person who's happy with $1 if I'm trying to give you 100. Because if you're going to be that person where you say, I just want $1, and I give you $1, but I say, but what about the 100 that I want to try to give you? You're like, no, I'm good. I just want $1. Not who I'm looking for. But if you're one of those people who are happy with scraps, chump change, pocket money, cool. I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to say you're an inferior person. That's just who you are. And I'm going to respect that. But at the same time, if you're going to have that type of limiting beliefs, that limiting mindset, then most likely you're going to need a coach who's going to baby you. A coach who's going to say, oh, that's okay, Johnny. We can try again tomorrow. Versus me, what's wrong with today? What was stopping you from achieving your goal today? I'm going to demand that from you. I'm going to demand greatness. I'm going to demand you give every ounce of effort and energy each and every day. Because the more effort and the more time we put toward our best self, it's going to help us reach our best life a lot sooner. So again, if you have any questions, email me coachinginsession@gmail.com. If not, I will be back on Wednesday, regular time, for 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And on Friday, we will have a different type of podcast because I have a full day on Friday. So I'm going to do my best to make it as close to 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, but it's looking more to be like 8 p.m. Central Standard Time on Friday. This Friday on September, was it 16th? Let me look. Nope, September 17th. So September 17th might be an hour delayed to the live show. Maybe good things come to those who wait. I don't know. But it's time for me to go to the gym, and as you can see, Superman shirt's on. Reverend Concepts, signing out.